So someone sent me a post from Royce's joke of a blog discussing men going their own way, and the following is Royce's take on the phenomenon of going your own way. He says, quote, "As for men going their own way, it's almost a malapropism. It's so utterly inconceivable. It is, not to put too fine a point on it, a big load of sour grapes in the nominal MRA movement. Men truly going their own way, vagina free, and simply not men trying to score internet debate points by claiming to go their own way but still banging on the sly, are likely mating market losers who find comfort in pretending to wish away the allure of women. No one's buying it, just as no one buys the claptrap by fat feminists insisting that fat women are lusted after by winner men, and only social conditioning prevents these men from dating all the grotesque and ill-mannered fatties that they really desire." End quote. Has nobody told these PUA retards how utterly insignificant they are? Has nobody informed them that they should stick to what they do best, which is convincing Western sluts to open their legs? Which apparently to PUAs is some sort of modern marvel befitting of praise and respect. Let's make several things clear right off the bat. At no point has it ever been said that going your own way is voluntary celibacy. Men going their own way never has sought to deny the allure of women, but to put it in its proper perspective, which is below our wants and interests as men. We've never told men to swear off sex. We simply aren't willing to dig to the phenomenal barrel-scraping lows that PUAs are willing to engage in to get it. First, let's talk about what defines game in the game community. We're talking about a group of people that obsessively study what women want, and more specifically how women want them to act, and then give it to them in exchange for pussy. And this gives them a sense of value and manhood, since of course game is about the validation of masculinity through women. Now let's start with what's probably the only thing I agree with as far as game is concerned. That being that men want to get laid. You'll get no argument from me there. But the proponents of game take this simple premise to a much more inaccurate foregone conclusion. They believe that men need to get laid, and as often as possible, and they also believe that a man is willing to do whatever a woman wants, whether that desire is expressed directly or indirectly from the woman in order to get laid. Now what I've just described is not a man as far as I'm concerned. Why? Because a man learns quickly after discovering the allure of women that there is an equal and sometimes superior repellent quality to their behavior, mainly that of their decreased sense of honor and continued sense of entitlement that has persevered throughout the ages, even in the supposed good old days of patriarchy when women were apparently innately good and moral damsels in distress that needed rescue from the proverbial dragon and all sorts of other threats like world wars and all manner of oppressive unopened doors. But it becomes apparent early on in manhood that this so-called allure that women have isn't exactly all it's cracked up to be. And it also becomes apparent that there exist opportunities outside of that which can be provided to you by the allure of women that are just as and oftentimes more satisfying and fulfilling to men. In other words, there are unique male pursuits and interests that do not involve women that are worthy of your time and effort. Things such as scientific and philosophical pursuits that have their own allure in and of themselves. Which compels me to bring up the singular truth that is never discussed by Royce or any of the proponents of game. That is that many men crave the allure of freedom more than the allure of pussy. Possibly in much higher numbers than we even know about. When confronted with a choice between either freedom or pussy, I and other men going their own way will choose freedom every time. And the illusion that you can exist as a pussy-chasing, female sycophant, vaulting through endless hoops in hopes of satisfying cravings which most women don't even know they want, and have even a modicum of freedom while doing so is simply false. Game amounts to a flowchart of assorted cheap tricks to help you navigate through the maze of female sexual psychology. What does this mean? It means you are in a loop, a holding pattern in which your masculinity is pegged to the unconscious female desire. This is by its very nature stifling and opposed to freedom and opposed to the concept of men coming to terms with their masculinity according to their own interests. What came first? The alpha male or the woman that PUAs want desperately to recognize them as alpha males? The answer to the question should be who the hell cares? We left high school a long time ago. Since being knighted an alpha male by Western whores is the pinnacle of game aspiration, it's understandable that they would affix such value to this female adjudicated status symbol, but for the rest of us, reality beckons, and you see the reality has a very annoying habit of frustrating unnecessary and unimportant courtship of your legal superiors and oppressors under Western law. Here is the reality of the situation, a reality which you won't see uttered in any Royce blog post or any other ridiculous PUA forum. The following is very real and tangible evidence, not of men going their own way, wishing away the allure of women, but of legal and institutionalized reasons to both ignore and even suppress your need for the allure of women. First reason, there's a tiny little crime of omission according to game theorists centering around the phenomenon of false rape accusations here in the West. Females here in the West have repeatedly demonstrated their ability to accuse men of rape to escape the detection of infidelity, and even for trivial feminine needs like garnering sympathy from peers, as the Heidi Jones example demonstrated. What's even more important is that when these females are caught doing this, there are no repercussions other than a legal wrist slap. Since game amounts to nothing more than a series of tricks centered around exploiting female psychology for the purposes of sex, and since game encourages doing this with as many women as possible, what are the chances that maybe you might come across a situation where one of these women post one-night stand decides to falsely finger you as a rapist to alleviate her buyer's remorse? Let's crack open the game manuals and see what it is you should do in that scenario. Oh yeah, I forgot. Since PUAs have yet to think through the ramifications of sex with high numbers of Western skanks, these impulse-driven monkeys can't provide any advice for that scenario. What's that you say? False rape accusations. Wow, you're such a beta. That's not how an alpha talks, bro. Second, we all know that women seek their meal ticket through men via child support. We all know that government enforces this. Game encourages men to sleep with women, preferably as many as possible. That, coupled with the fact that women skip out on birth control or capitalize on broken condoms in order to get pregnant by men they know they can derive meal tickets from, is a very tangible reason to keep the amount of women you're sleeping with at any given time limited, since the more women you're having sex with, the less you're able to gauge whether or not they're employing all possible preventative measures. Not to mention, the more women you sleep with, the higher chances that one of them will be a diseased STD receptacle. But of course, alphas don't have to worry about that since they're apparently impervious to disease and all that. The funniest part of the clowns playing this game is that many of them actually believe their work is somehow comparable to the work of the men's rights activists. As if chasing the diseased crotch of American whores is a worthy endeavor when compared with combating false rape and domestic violence accusations or divorce law. Here's a comment from a Royce acolyte named Artem in response to the question of the difference between MRAs and PUAs. He says, quote, "What's the difference between a PUA and an MRA? An emphasis on results in one's chosen endeavor. A PUA ruthlessly examines every aspect of his game with the goal of improving his results. Too many MRAs seem unconcerned that for all their activism, feminists seem not even remotely worried that MRAs will hold them accountable. What results have MRAs delivered towards these stated goals?" End quote. Now that's some PUA delusion at its finest. First off, as per the accusation that feminists aren't in the least bit worried as to the pressures that MRAs can exert on them, let's take Sharon Osbourne as an example. Here we have a woman who expressed joy at the mutilation of a man for no other reason than the fact that she hates men. A few days later, she was forced to grudgingly give an apology, and now there's even talk of her leaving the show. Now, can I irrefutably prove that MRAs caused this? No, I can't. But if not, then who did? Are we to believe that she apologized to ease her own virulently misandric conscience? No, some external force made her do this, and it sure wasn't any supplicating pussy-obsessed PUAs. What's the difference between PUAs and MRAs, you ask? Well, I don't speak for the site in any way, but I think the same difference between, for example, Citizen Renegade and A Voice for Men. One actually stands for the interest of men and the other is a bunch of pseudoscientific biological itch-scratching. Apparently the PUA quest for female validation has inflated their egos to the point where they actually believe that employing game is somehow comparable in scope and gravity to battling the legal behemoth that is the feminized Western court systems and misandry as a whole. They're so deluded and arrogant that they believe the stated goals for PUAs and MRAs are of the same difficulty. It's amazing, really. It's a bunch of addicts bragging about their addiction. It's like a community of crackheads ridiculing the social drinker or occasional weed smoker for not dedicating his whole life to getting more drugs. That's really about all I have to say about these PUA retards.